Okay, I'd like to call the special closed session meeting of the City Council to order. Roll call.
Mayor Garaventa,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Hawkins,
Here.
Councilmember Plummer,
Here.
Councilmember Such,
Here.
Councilmember Williams,
Here.
all here.
Okay, we have a full quorum. Item B is public comment. The public may address the council on any item on the closed session agenda before the council adjourns into closed session. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes. And I just want to announce what the item is in closed session. It's if you have your agenda, you'll see it down there in item C. It says threat to public services or facilities, Government Code Section 54957. A consultation with Douglas L. White, City Attorney. And so if there's any public comment, now, Doug, are you running that? The public comment, mute and unmute?
Yep.
Okay, you may want to explain to everyone the procedure.
So if you'd like to make a comment, hit *9 or hit the raise your hand button on your computer. On your computer, go down to press participants and the raise your hand function will be there. Also, if you're on an iPad, iPhone, or similar tablet device, there should be a more button and then there will be a raise your hand feature in the more button.
Okay, is there anyone that would like to speak on the public comment portion of our agenda?
Mayor, I do not see anybody, but I'm going to unmute everybody. Oh, I see one. I have one from Michelle H. iPad. So I'm going to lower her hand and unmute her.
Good afternoon.
Yep.
Okay, go ahead.
This is Dan Hess. Local resident, lived here all my life, and I just wanted to share a perspective that concern for our businesses downtown. We all know that you can go up to Lowe's and see the traffic and that's in and out of Lowe's and Walmart and the grocery stores, and to claim that our businesses downtown are non-essential and the hardship that's being put over on them, I just think we really need to come forward with a way to let them make a living. And Sonora is not an easy place to make a living to begin with. You guys all know that. And what we're doing to our local businesses at this point is going to have long-term effects and is grossly unfair. So I just would plead my case that you do the best you can. I know there's constraints with our state government and some of the things that way, and liability issues, whatever else is going to be in the mix. But those things really pale when it comes to the toll that's being taken. So I thank you for your time, and hope you would consider my viewpoint. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else like to speak on the public comment portion? Do you see anybody, Doug?
Doug, you're mute.
Got to unmute myself. Is there anybody else? So I'll say that again because I was probably muted when I said it. If you'd like to speak, again, press *9 if you're on a phone, or use the raise your hand function if you're on a computer or other kind of electronic device. Mayor, I do not see anybody else.
Okay. So at this time, then, we will go into closed session. And again, I'll read it again just to make sure everyone knows what it says. It's threat to public services or facilities, Government Code Section 54957, consultation with Douglas L. White, City Attorney. And so what we'll do is we'll go into closed session and then discuss what we need to do in that closed session. At the end, there will be a report of some sort out. If there's any action, which I doubt there will be actually, but if there's any action, that will be reported out. If there's direction to staff, that will be reported out. But I'm not sure how long we expect to be in closed session, but if you folks do want to wait for the report out, we will come back at some point. Did I explain it pretty much as well as I needed to, Mr. Attorney?
You did. And Mayor, we have one additional person who'd like to speak, Kristen Hedges.
Oh, okay.
So let me unmute her and lower her hand. Okay. I think we're,
So his video's on. I see him moving around there.
Hi, my name's Ken Hedges, actually. And can you hear me?
yeah, you're good.
Oh.
Maybe we lost
Well, I
him.
think we lost video, but I still hear. Ken, are you there?
It looks like I'm unmuted and
Now you're good.
Okay, there you are. Now you're back. We see
okay.
you.
I just had a question as far as like, you know, Jim, you said you don't expect that there'll be any change. I mean, what exactly is your intent? Is it to try and incorporate a way for, you know, small businesses in Sonora to find a way to work around this, you know, state lockdown? Or is it just, is it kind of like, hey, we're gonna sit and, you know, BS about it, and even though we know that the answer is nothing. I understand it's a challenging position you guys are in, but what's the goal of this specifically? Because it doesn't seem like too optimistic as far as what I'm hearing.
Well, from what I understand, we're here to listen to. We're here to discuss an item. We're here to discuss what's on the closed session agenda. You know, some of this stuff isn't really disclosed to us ahead of time because it's we have to all get together and meet as a council. So I can't really. I don't even, to be honest with you, you know, I don't even know exactly where the discussion is going to go. I think we have some parameters. A couple of us may have been clued into at the beginning, so ahead of time. But it's basically a discussion of COVID and the response to COVID.
Here, let me add a few things.
Yeah, I'm going to let Doug go ahead.
So just so we're really clear, because I understand how challenging this is and how frustrating it is. Let me explain the baseline that we're operating under. Cities do not have the ability to be less restrictive than the laws of the state of California. Laws would include executive orders, which have the power and effect of law. Nor do we have the ability to be less restrictive than what the county is. So if you look at it, we can be more restrictive, but we can't be less restrictive than the state and the county, and candidly the federal government as well. So those are the parameters that we have to work within. And so to the extent that there's ambiguity and opportunity for potentially broad interpretation, we're looking at that and trying to avail ourselves of that to help our businesses as much as we possibly can while ensuring that people are safe. But we are confined by the laws that are imposed on us that we're both and are responsible for carrying out. And the hammers like significant financially that flow in the face of it, as well as we've already heard lots of rumblings about, you know, state licensing, taking state licenses for businesses that open that have received state licenses. But those would not be done by us. Our job here is to both pass on information to the council and kind of go over, you know, what discretion we do have and what we can do. But it is fairly restricted in that respect. So So just to put the framework around what our discussions are like. I mean, I'm not going to get into the detail of what we're talking about. That would be inappropriate. But they are framed with what our legal constraints are. And Mayor, we do
Yes.
have another hand up.
Okay.
This would be under Derek Nunez. So I'm going to unmute Derek and lower his hand. Okay. Derek, you're on.
Hey there. Sorry for the mask. I'm still in my business, so in case someone walks in, I want to be prepared. I just wanted to voice, I understand that you have to follow the guidelines that are in place and that you can't loosen restrictions from entities that are above you, like the county or the state. But I do have concerns for a lot of my neighbors who are unable to open, even though I can. And I would like to see the city of Sonora, if possible, remove the fines so there's one less barrier for those that are afraid of taking action to protect their business or their livelihoods. So if that does come up during closed session, please consider removing those fines. I have a call, so I'm going to take that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Derek.
I have not been able to raise my hand or figure out how to raise my hand, but in regard to what Derek just spoke about, I'm concerned with the difference of the information that we're getting from the county versus the city officials, that county is not going to be enforcing fines versus the city is. And I would like to hear some clarification about that and the reasonings why behind it.
Well, if the county decides to not enforce the fines, that's on them. They're likely to see a fairly significant financial penalty from the state in terms of the removal of potentially their public health funding. So that's something, but we are our own jurisdiction with our own responsibilities. And while we can't be more restrictive than the county, we have a responsibility as a city to maintain the health, safety, and welfare of the beings of those who are here and operate. And I'll be also very candid. If to allow businesses to operate that have been prohibited under the governor's order, potentially creates liability for the entities that don't do any form of enforcement. Meaning that if there was, let's use a restaurant for an example, if you were to allow in-room dining and there was an infection and potentially death at that location, not only would that business owner not have any insurance coverage because it would be an illegally operating business and would be outside of any policy that they have, but they would likely, the people who would be suing would likely be looking for larger pockets. And the main pocket would be for the city who, the city and county, if they allowed them to operate without penalty, kind of just in flight of the law. And so that could jeopardize the city's entire general fund. And again, if there's a question as to whether or not the city would even have insurance coverage for not enforcing its rules as it relates to businesses that had been identified where complaints had been lodged and not done it. The county has their own separate legal counsel. They can go through their own kind of risk assessment, but that's why you're not seeing a more broad-based. Well, I think what you're seeing, education being the primary way of enforcement. I think that's the reason you're not seeing more folks just not complying at all or enforcing it. It's largely due to insurance issues, liability.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there anyone else before we go into closed session who'd like to speak in the public comment portion?
I think I saw one mayor, but their hand went back down. So just one more time, if you're on a phone, press *9. If you are using a computer, use the raise your hand function. Yeah, it's with the last 3 of 115 in the phone number. I'm going to unmute you right now and go ahead and talk.
Yes, hello, my name is Cindy Rivera. So I am looking at some businesses that have similar liability.
Would you mind
Cindy?
talking?
Yeah, Cindy, can you get closer to to your microphone? It's hard for us to hear you.
Okay, how about this?
It's a little better.
Hang on. How about this?
That's even better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
So when I see two businesses in Sonora that could easily follow the same rules, it seems discriminatory to me for one to be able to open and one not, if within the general guidelines they could both follow those rules. And why is that not discrimination?
So it very well may be, and I would encourage those who believe that they have some legal rights to exercise those with the state in terms of the way that they implemented this.
I think with the city, if the city issued a fine to one business when they are operating under the same parameters as their neighbor, why is that not discrimination from the city? I would suggest that the city might have significant financial exposure to lawsuit.
So I never talk about specific cases in public. Those are closed session items. I will say that
I'm not talking about, I would say look at two businesses that are next door to each other that are following the same rules, and one sells food and one sells clothing, but they are following the same rules. Why is there no exposure for liability if you ticket one and charge them a bunch of money and not the other?
So again, without getting into specifics, we only follow the rules that are given to us by the state and the county. We have not adopted any rules that are more prohibitive than those. And the administrative fines are only there to have a non-criminal remedy available to us. So
it tells me that you are unconcerned about your people in Sonora. That's what those fines tell me.
Well, I mean, I could tell you that the rationale for them being put on the books was to not have to charge somebody with a potential misdemeanor and to have other methods that were available to the city.
I believe it is discriminatory. I really do. And I believe that the city has exposure for that, because you cannot say that it is okay to go to Walmart and it is not okay to go to some little place in downtown Sonora. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's so blatantly discriminatory against small business, and then to have the city pile on with fines when the businesses could just agree to follow the same rules seems very discriminatory.
So, Mayor, Councilmember Plummer has his hand up.
Well,
Another question for Mary Rose, and that is, my understanding is that so far no fines have been levied. Is that correct?
That is correct. All of our enforcement process has been education-based. We have not even issued any cease and desist letters, and that comes before any particular fining. So we are nowhere near fining any businesses at this juncture. And like City Attorney Douglas Weiss just stated, you know, we are at the mercy of the state. The state has put in the guidelines of which businesses are essential and non-essential, and that is the guidance that we follow. We do not have any other ramifications or process to go outside of what the state has issued.
Thank you very much. It's widely believed we are supplanting our finances through fining, and at least for the group of people listening right now, I'd like them to know that that obviously is not the case.
I think it's important that everybody who's watching understand there's two things. Number one, there's never been any fines yet. And number two, I think that's as the city administrator just said. And number two, we have not done anything that would be considered more restrictive than what is imposed on us by the state or the county. So we are just doing what we're charged with doing with the hand that we've been dealt. We haven't done anything more significant than that.
Okay.
I think
So,
Member Hawkins has a.
Yeah, I just was going to ask Mary Rose if that's okay, Mr. Mayor.
sure.
Isn't it correct? Well, one, we put this fine thing together. It wasn't just City Hall's idea to try to make money or anything like that, because the state's answer to the state's answer to us when we said, how do we do any of this, is put them in jail. Basically, the idea was putting people in jail, and I know that the city council did not want that. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I would love for our police chief to speak up as well, because we had many discussions, the police chief and I, between the city attorney as well. You know, this is giving the city council an option to be able to enforce as a last resort, to enforce for businesses to comply with the governor's order. Because if we did not have this administrative fine structure in place, the only way to do an enforcement is through criminal enforcement, i.e. arrests, misdemeanor charges.
And then if the chief decides to speak, I've got one more thing after that. I don't know if the chief would like to speak or not.
If I can certainly weigh in on that and support what Mayor Rose just said. You know, part of this community too, and we recognize the difficulty the business is having, the business up, and but we also respect to you know, the potential dangers for our vulnerable populations. So we have to hear those voices too. And so at some point when there's a regulation or a rule that has to be enforced, how is that enforced? How do we get complaints when all else has failed? So we have fines, or we have criminal repercussions. So, I think fines are here.
Okay.
And then the other thing I wanted to point out to anybody that is listening, and please know this, I think this city council has been very forthcoming and honest, and I know every single member of the city council has talked to the public, and you know, rightfully so, the public's upset. I am too. You know, I've lost 40% of my income from my job already. But it needs to be pointed out that initially the county was forcing the sheriff's department to actually pull people over. I was receiving calls on this. Random people were getting pulled over. Supervisors aren't going to tell you that, especially the one in particular who is up for a re-election. He's not going to talk about it. But I encourage people to call Carl Rutherford and ask him why. But it needs to be pointed out initially that the Board of Supervisors was hiding behind the Sheriff's Department instead of doing the right thing. And now all this mess is going on. We're going through this too. This is our neighborhood. This is our city. And this is hard on every single one of us. I've got a friend that's about ready to lose his business, and I got a call yesterday, and I got 3 hours of sleep last night, so I hadn't been too happy today about it. And this is just hard on everyone. So we're trying to do our best, but people need to understand that the state is holding this over our head, and we can turn our back to the state, but there will be huge financial implications, huge.
And legal ones as well.
Yes, huge financial, legal ones as well. And I don't agree with things that are going on. Unfortunately, we're bound by this. And as my friend Colette Sudge said, we've had a huge emergency, and I do believe this has been something that has been very serious health-wise, but then we've got the legal ramifications coming from the other end. So we're in a hard spot. I'm not complaining. I'm happy I'm here. I'm thankful that I'm here. And I believe the council probably feels the same way, but please bear with us. Like I said, we've got a Board of Supervisors, one in particular that's going out and pointing fingers. He needs to be looking in the mirror, and I don't mind calling it out. But I guess that's all I really have to say. I just please bear with us.
Okay, thank you. I do want to remind everyone this is public comment portion for our closed session items. So I know we want to be informational as best we can, but it's just that. And is there any other public comment before we go into our closed session?
Here at this time, I don't see any more hands up.
Okay, do we, Mary Rose or Doug, do we know how long we might be?
I would expect that we're going to be in there for about an hour.
That's what I was thinking, about an hour.
Okay, so just to let folks on the line know that we're going to be gone off of this screen for a while. likely an hour, who knows, maybe more. There will be a report coming back. And I just want to point out to Ken that what I meant by there's a difference between formal action and a report, and that's kind of what I was alluding to. If we take a vote on something, that's a formal report. And I didn't believe that at this point, not knowing what we're going to be talking about, that that there's going to be a formal action. Usually these meetings end in a report. I can't guarantee that, however. But that's what I was alluding to. So just to let you all know that. So we will be reporting out at some point when we're done. So if you, you know, your discretion to stay in the line is up to you. Doug, I understand there it stays open the whole time and then we come back to it, correct?
That's right.
Okay.
So we'll go out to what's called a breakout room where it'll just be the people that we're bringing in, and the main line will stay open until we come back.
Okay. So with that, we will adjourn into closed session.
There.
Okay, including the public?
Yes.
Okay. So we've have come back from closed session and we've given directions to staff and nothing else to report. And with that, going to adjourn the meeting.
Yep. And just a reminder, Mayor, that we have a meeting this coming Monday.
Oh, yes. We will be having our regular meeting on Monday, the 4th. The closed session portion will start at 4 o'clock. And it's the same closed session item, response to COVID. And our regular portion of our meeting will be at 5 o'clock as usual. If we have to go long in our closed session, we will do that after the regular portion. So the regular portion will start at 5 o'clock. With that, adjourn the tonight's special meeting and hope to see you all on Monday.